Hey YouTube, Sack Guy here. Got a kind of a special knife here for me anyway. I do need help trying to identify this knife, and as I get into it, you'll see why. I'm having a hard time finding any information on it. Let me give the specs on this and then give you the little backstory on it, why this is special to me. Closed, this knife is 2 5/8 inches long. Opened, it is 4 inches long. The blade, this is the master blade, is 1 3/8 inches long, and I think it may have been 1.5 inches, because it looks to me, looking at the blade, that it might have been reprofiled where the tip got broken off, and I'll explain why I think the tip might have been broken off later. The width of the knife is 1/4 inch, and the weight is 1/2 ounce. Now the scales, I believe, are possibly ivory, and it has nickel silver bolsters, steel back spring, and brass liners. And as you can see, it's got 5 pins holding it. The pins at either end are basically the pivots for the knife blades. It's got 2 blades on it, a very small spear point, which is only about 1 inch long, or about 3/4 of an inch long, and then the master blade. And see if we can get it to, if you can see here, the lighting might not be all that great for this, but on the back there's no blade tang. On the front, might be a little bit too small to see. It says HOFFRITZ Germany. Now, I was able to find out something about HOFFRITZ, and they were basically an importer of mostly German knives, and this is a German knife. Who made it, I don't know. And I think, as I believe I said, the scales may be ivory. Now, what I have been able to kind of figure out, I've seen similar knives to these. I think it was made in the 40s or 50s. The blades do have half stops on them, and it's got a long nail nick, but when it goes into the handle of the knife, you can barely see the blade, and you only get a very tiny portion of that nail nick. On the smaller blade, you might be able to see it a little bit better, hopefully. Again, just a small portion of the nail nick sticks out. Now, the reason this knife is a little special to me, when I was growing up, my grandmother had a friend, and that's all he really was a friend. Roughly her same age. She had known him for years. He was just a friend of the family, but we called him Uncle Jonesy. My mom's dad was not anywhere in the picture. He and my grandmother had divorced many years ago, so Jonesy kind of became a grandfather figure to me. I did a lot of things with him that I normally would do with a grandfather. He belonged to a lodge, and I went to his lodge picnics with him. He took me fishing a few times. He worked as a farmhand on a dairy farm, and I went to the farm a couple times with him, kind of following him around. I was about 9 or 10 at the time. He was using this little knife, and he'd pull it out to open up bags of feed or what have you. He just used this little knife for everything. I just remember him using this knife, and using such a small knife, when all my uncles and my dad and everybody I knew that carried a knife carried a much larger knife. A small knife for them would have been like a Barlow or something, but this is the knife Uncle Jonesy carried around with him. I believe it was a Christmas present from someone to him, and then after he had passed away, several of his belongings got passed over to my dad, and my dad knew how close my Uncle Jonesy and I were and passed them on to me. So that's the reason this knife is kind of special. I would like to know who made it, and if I can narrow it down to even a better deal as to when it was made, I think it would just be kind of cool. Kind of special to me. And if anybody has any information as to the make or maker of this knife, let me know. So I hope you enjoyed the review of this little knife, my Uncle Jonesy's knife. It's just kind of a cool little knife. Got some good memories of a goofy old man who I just loved. So hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And remember, always be prepared.